Hi. Today I'm going to answer some questions that my viewers have asked me. I think I'm answering them all, so if you ask something, be sure to watch to the end. Truth Seeker 1959 asked, I don't hear most of y'all talk about us being spiritual beings inside of this fleshly body. I know what I am is not flesh. I am a spirit in this fleshly body. What is your take on that? Truth Seeker 1959, I don't know what we are. As I've said several times, I was never into science. I'm truly ignorant on the subject. But I believe I live and move and have my being because of my physical brain. And the reason I think that is that scientists say it. I know that damage to the brain causes people to behave differently, and I have no evidence of a spirit's living in me. When I'm asleep, I don't know what people in the room with me are saying. Is my spirit asleep too? If I get drunk, does my spirit say, oh man, her brain has changed. Guess I'll just have to go along with her stupidity? If I get hurt and forget how to make my own food, does my spirit forget how to? And then when my brain stops working, does my spirit say, oops, I better hightail it out of here? It just doesn't make sense to me that there is something inside me other than my brain that makes my decisions and keeps me alive. And if there is, then it would have to be a God or something that put it in me. And so it seems that God would be responsible for how it behaved, not me. And I don't know any of this. My mind is still open. So if there's some evidence that comes up that makes me think otherwise, then I will. Dutch Joan asked several questions. The first one is, do you still celebrate things like Christmas and Easter? And if you do, what has changed in the way you celebrate them? If you don't, do you celebrate other holidays instead? Dutch Joan, I was raised in the Church of Christ. They frowned on the celebration of Christmas and Easter. I mean, most of us did it in our homes, but it wasn't a religious festival. I myself was into Santa Claus and, snowmen and just the decorations and everything. I divorced the whole holiday of Christmas from the Bible and Jesus, and I still do. It's about getting together with family and eating and, playing games and giving and receiving gifts, just having fun. As a Christian, I didn't like Easter at all. It's about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. And while the Bible doesn't say to celebrate the birth of Jesus, it does say to celebrate his death, burial, and resurrection. But that's to be done on the first day of the week and every first day of the week with communion service. At least that's what the Church of Christ taught. So it seemed blasphemous to me to celebrate Easter when I already was told how to celebrate this. So I didn't like it at all. Still, we hid eggs, and we had a good meal when I was young, and I did it with my children. It was a cultural thing, and I did it even though I didn't like the holiday. Now that my children are grown, I just buy candy and give money to my grandchildren for Easter. But for myself, I don't do anything unless my kids decide we're going to get together. Dutch Joan also asks, one of your early videos starts with Namaste. From which philosophy of life did you adopt that? Namaste is Sanskrit, and it means bowing to you or I bow to you. It's a way of honoring others by accepting them as you want them to accept you. Dutch Joan also asks, what are your thoughts about Jesus now? Do you think he still has some significance for the world today as a man, a teacher perhaps? I think Jesus has great significance to many people as a teacher. And he, or the character purporting to be him, had some good teachings that we might want to follow. Some not so good, but that's the way of everybody. As to who he was, I don't know whether he even existed. He might just be a character in a story. If he did exist, I don't think he was a god or a God-man, of course. He may have been wise, but I don't believe he was anything more than other wise men are. If he was just one man, then I think people made up stories about him from several God men, giving him the qualities and telling the same types of stories about him that had been told about gods before him. Jesus may have even begun as a sky god. His physical details may have been made up later. As we know for a fact, many of them were, such as the date of his birth. I don't have enough information to make a decision about all of this, so I just ponder it from time to time, and this is probably more than you were asking. Dutch Joan also asked, are there habits or rituals that you hold on to that came from your Christian background? Well, apart from church, about the only religious habits I had were praying and singing. And I missed the singing because some of the songs had some really good melodies. Some of them were really slow and draggy, and I hated them. But I don't miss the praying at all. It was a burden, especially since I thought I was to pray without ceasing, as the Bible says, and give thanks in everything. And I was constantly asking for things I wanted. But the main thing I prayed for, the thing I wanted more than anything, the thing I prayed for every single day, didn't happen. I asked Yahweh to let all my children bury me. And that's how I worded it. And I would pray, take care of my children and keep them safe today and tomorrow. And I said that in case I fell asleep one night and didn't pray. That way I'd be covering my children for 2 days. Because, you can't expect Yahweh to do something if you don't ask. He said, we have not because we ask not. And I truly believed, I think as much as anybody can, that prayer would be answered. I mean, it wasn't an evil prayer. It wasn't anything I wanted, so that I could consume it on my lust or anything. And I believed it would happen, but it wasn't. And I know some people think that the loss of my younger son is why I left Christianity. But the truth is, when he died, I was in the process of getting my PhD in biblical studies. And it was the study that caused me to lose faith in the Bible, which happened a couple of years after my son died. And some people say they miss Jesus when they leave Christianity behind. I didn't have any room in my heart to miss Jesus. My heart was full, and is full, of missing my son. I'm not going to miss somebody I've never seen. Leaving Christianity was actually an easy thing for me. My faith was based on what I thought was knowledge. It was an intellectual thing. No emotional thing could have destroyed my faith because it wasn't based on emotion. It was based on what I thought was truth. And once I no longer believed in the so-called truth, I was good to leave it behind. No regrets. But again, I've answered more than you asked, Dutch Joan. I guess I really don't have any rituals today. I mean, I try to get my steps in every day. And I do yoga, which some Christians would say is evil, and other stretching exercises. I also study Spanish every day. I do Wordle and Wordscapes each morning. That's for my brain, to try to keep it from getting senile. And that's about it for rituals. Dutch Joan also asked, do you still believe in an afterlife? I don't believe in an afterlife per se. I do think it's possible. For all I know, I had some sort of existence before I was born and have simply forgotten. And of course, now that might mean we have a spirit too, which, as I said, it's possible. Reincarnation kind of makes sense to me. The reason I say that is that I'm alive right now, the only time that exists. Of all the times that it's important to be alive, which is right now, I'm alive. What are the odds of that? I mean, I know we have to be alive at some point in history, but right now? So it makes me think we're always alive. And think about it, if we do have a spirit or personality or whatever, some of it's conditioned. What we think and how we feel and behave are partially based on what happens to us, how we're raised, and the events that occur in our life. So if the somewhat blank slate that was me when I was born were put in another body, that person would have different experiences and respond to stimuli in a totally different way. Her, or his, views would be different. her life would take a different trajectory than mine. She might not end up with severe PTSD like I have. She might love science instead of grammar. She might even be musically talented. Maybe she would become a dancer, which, if I hadn't been raised a Christian, I would have enjoyed. So I think it's possible that we may simply always be alive somewhere. Maybe this is my first life, or maybe it's my 100th. I really don't know. Or hey, after this life, maybe we exist on another plane or in another universe as ourselves. I have no idea. But do I think there's a heaven, as some think is described in the Bible? No, I don't think there's a place where we go hang out and bow down and worship some self-centered deity. Selena Felicity White asked, what do you find to be the most frustrating thing about talking to Christians? For me, Selena, one of the most frustrating things is that Christians don't engage the same way I do, or the same way normal people do, with topics other than religion. What I mean is that when they say something, I try to deal with that, with what they say, and give my thoughts on that, and some kind of proof for what I think in response to what they said. But they don't do that. They tend to ignore what I say and go off on something they think proves their point, while my point's just left hanging, no response, just blowing in the wind. Or maybe I'll make several points, like in a long response or something, and they'll ignore all of them except one little point that's insignificant maybe, that they think they can refute. And then by seemingly refuting that one thing, they think they fully responded to me. They've refuted me and proven me wrong. Also, it's extremely frustrating to me when they get mean, which they almost always do before the discussion is over, if it's a long discussion. They get personal and they get down and dirty, and I can't stoop that low. So I'm at a disadvantage. I have to respond with grace, while they, who are supposed to respond that way according to their book, respond with hatefulness. And the thing about Christians is they can demonize us and then feel good about mistreating us. But if we respond in kind, they view that as our being governed by the devil. A black man once said to me that he had to dress twice as well as white people to be thought of as half as good. Well, that's how I feel about not being a Christian. I have to behave twice as well to be thought of as half as good as the Christian, and even then, it doesn't work. So those are a few things that frustrate me. And of course, just the general behavior of Christians in refusing to see clear truth when it slaps them in the face. Eyes Wide Shut one said, are you a fan of William Faulkner? I like some things Faulkner said. These quotes I'm going to share are about the two things that have always interested me, which is religion and storytelling, well, grammar too. But Faulkner said, I'm bad and I'm going to hell and I don't care. I'd rather be in hell than anywhere where you are. Guess I can understand that. He also said, if a story's in you, it has to come out. I absolutely agree with that. I remember being interviewed several years ago, and one of the things I said was that I have to write. It's not a choice. It's not something I can or, I can choose to do or not do. I have to write. The person who interviewed me titled the article, A Woman Who Was Born to Write. I feel that if I couldn't write, my mind would explode. So in a way, I'm a fan of Faulkner, but no, I've never really thought that much about him. Cindy Chrisman, it could be Christ Man. It's spelled like Christ, so if I'm pronouncing this wrong, I'm sorry. She asked, my question has to do with the relationship between Yahweh, Jesus, God. They don't seem clearly defined. Am I supposed to believe Moses met Jesus in the desert? Why isn't Yahweh mentioned in the New Testament? Are all three the same? If not, what happened to Yahweh? Is he still living today like Jesus supposedly is? I have many problems with the concept of Trinity and was raised to believe the Bible was speaking of one God throughout, yet when apologists give their subpar explanations, they don't make sense to me. That don't make sense to me either, Cindy. I was told, Cindy, that there is one God, but there are three persons in the Godhead or Trinity. That makes absolutely no sense, but what else is new? I was told that three beings were one in purpose, so that made them one God. And that answer never satisfied me as a Christian, and it doesn't satisfy me now. It still means there are three gods. A husband and wife are called one in the Bible too. A man is to cling to his wife, and they become one flesh. But we all know they're still two separate people, two separate fleshes. Did Moses meet Jesus in the desert? I think he met Yahweh. I think the Bible is simply contradictory about whether anyone but Jesus had seen Yahweh. Why isn't Yahweh mentioned in the New Testament? I was told that by the time the New Testament was written, the Jews didn't say his name anymore, so they changed his name to the Lord or whatever. Anyway, Jesus prayed to somebody and talked about his Father. In Matthew 27:46, Jesus calls his Father Eli, or my God. Maybe he was calling on El rather than Yahweh. And of course, some people believe Yahweh was a son of El, and that Jesus said the Jews were of their father the devil. And when they said that, they were referring not to the high god El, but to Yahweh, whom they worshipped. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I do think Yahweh may be the son of the Canaanite god El. In Deuteronomy 32, 8 through 9, this is from the New Jerusalem Bible of 1985. It says, when the Most High, which is Elyon, gave the nations each their heritage, when he partitioned out the human race, he assigned the boundaries of nations according to the number of the children of God. But Yahweh's portion was his people. Jacob was to be the measure of his inheritance. So if Elyon was the true God of the Old Testament, but the Jews worshipped Yahweh his son, because Elyon gave the Jews to Yahweh. And, we certainly know that Yahweh was devilish. Well, that just opens up a whole new can of worms, and I really don't know how to deal with that. That's the end of the questions, and I really want to thank you all for giving me all these questions. It was fun for me to think about, how I was going to answer them, and I really appreciate that you watch and that you wanted to ask me some questions. So thank you again, and thank you for watching. Bye.